Hey guys, close your eyes. Forget your bed, forget your phone, forget the warm safety of now. You're in France, or Spain, or some nameless patch of mud somewhere between home and hell. It's the year 1812. You're 19, but age doesn't matter here. No one's counting anymore. You're wearing a wool coat that hasn't been washed in 6 months. It smells like mould, horse sweat, and dead dreams. Your boots are too small. Your socks are older than you are. You haven't bathed since last winter. You're not even sure what your skin looks like under the layers of grime, soot, and blood, some of it yours, most of it not. You wake up coughing, again. The air is damp, cold. It tastes like smoke and rotting bread. The tent above your head is more whole than canvas. Water drips through, lands on your face. You don't flinch. You're too tired to flinch. There are snoring bodies on either side of you. Someone's wheezing. Someone else is mumbling in their sleep. A third person you think his name's Henri isn't breathing at all. You hope he's dead, because if he's not, you're going to have to carry him. You pull your blanket tighter. It's lice-ridden, torn, stiff with filth. It does nothing against the cold. You gave up shivering 3 nights ago. That was a luxury. Now you just lie still. Let it happen. Outside, a drum beats once, then again. Wake up call. You groan. Not because you're lazy, because you're alive. And that means you have to keep going. If you enjoy war stories that put you inside the stink, the fear, the misery, not just the glory, hit the like button. Subscribe. It helps us keep telling them. Now breathe in and get ready, because this is a Napoleonic war camp, and you wouldn't last a day. 1. Mud, muskets, and morning rot. You crawl out of the tent like something half dead. Not because you're eager, because someone kicked your foot and told you to. The ground outside is mud, not dirt, not soil, mud. Thick, black, cold. It clings to your boots like it wants to pull you under. You've been in this camp for 3 weeks, maybe more. Time stretches weird out here. There are no clocks, only the sun when it bothers to show up, the next beat of the drum. You're not in battle yet, not today, not exactly. But you're close. The cannon fire is faint in the distance, like thunder made by angry gods, the kind that makes your stomach twist and your fingers twitch around the stock of your musket. Speaking of your musket, it's a flintlock, long, heavy, temperamental. It misfires 1 out of 4 times, jams twice a day, and if you drop it, you're better off using it as a club. You slept with it last night, not because you wanted to, because you had to. It's your only protection, your only tool, your only chance. It's also freezing cold and smells like black powder and mildew. You check the powder horn, still damp. Great. That means if the shooting starts today, you might as well just throw rocks. Someone passes you a chunk of bread, hard as iron, mouldy around the edges. You chew it anyway, slowly, carefully. 1 cracked tooth and you're finished. There's no dentist in the war camp, just a man with pliers and a bottle of rum. You glance around. Every man looks the same. Hollow-eyed, hollow-cheeked, wrapped in layers of filth and wool. Everyone's coughing, everyone's limping, everyone's pretending they're not about to die. You spot a guy by the fire warming his hands over a few weak embers. His fingers are black at the tips. Frostbite. He'll lose them by tomorrow, maybe the whole hand. No one says anything, because here's the truth. If it's not happening to you, it's not your problem. You scratch your chest. More lice. They're everywhere. Crawling through your uniform, biting, burrowing. You don't even flinch anymore. You just scratch, like it's breathing. A corporal starts yelling. Something about formation. Something about drills. You groan, again. Your feet are already blistered, your back stiff. Your left knee clicks when you walk. And now you're expected to stand in a line for 2 hours marching back and forth through mud while a man with a stick screams at you. You think about deserting. Just for a second. Then you remember what they did to the last guy who tried that. They tied him to a wheel, stripped his shirt and whipped him until his spine showed. Then they let him go. He didn't walk again, but technically he wasn't dead, so it didn't count as murder. You join the line. Your musket feels heavier now, like it knows what's coming. A sergeant with a mouthful of broken teeth walks by, inspecting the troops. His coat's nicer than yours. His boots are polished. You hate him instinctively. He stops in front of you, sniffs, says, "You stink." You don't respond. Not because you're being obedient, because what are you going to say? "Yes, Sergeant, I smell like 10 men died in my trousers and none of them left a note." He moves on. The drill begins. Step, turn, shoulder arms, present arms, fire, reload, again. Your fingers fumble with the cartridge. The powder spills, the ramrod sticks, the flint slips. The sergeant smacks your helmet with the flat of his sword. "Too slow," he snarls. "You'll be dead before you fire once." He's probably right. By the time you've loaded, aimed and pulled the trigger, the enemy could have run across the field, stabbed you with a bayonet and written a letter home. You finish the drill. Claps against a tree. Your breath comes in clouds. Your chest burns. Your feet throb. Your musket barrel is coated in soot and shame. Someone throws up nearby, not from illness, from hunger. Their stomach tried to digest the mould. It lost. You sip from your canteen. The water tastes like copper and something worse. You ignore it. It's wet. That's enough. A fly lands on your cheek. You slap it. It comes back. There are more of them now. Dozens, maybe hundreds, swarming the camp, drawn to the stink of wounds, waste and the sick. They're the only things thriving here. And as you sit in the mud, clutching your useless musket, staring at a sky that doesn't care whether you live or die, one thought curls around your brain like a snake. This is just the morning, and you already want to lie down and never get up. 2. The camp smells like hell's armpit. You can smell the camp before you even open your eyes. It's not one smell, it's layers, like rot wearing a cologne of disappointment. Smoke, sweat, urine, wet wool, and something worse, something sweet and sour and sharp, like spoiled meat left too long in the sun. That's the smell of death trying to be polite. You sit up, slowly. Your joints complain, your spine crunches, your blanket peels off your body with a sickening sound, stiff with grime, and something sticky you don't remember spilling. The tent reeks of mildew and man. Someone farted in their sleep, someone else vomited in the corner last night. Nobody cleaned it. Nobody will. You crawl outside and inhale not for freshness, just for clarity. Bad choice. The latrine is nearby, too nearby. Just a trench, dug shallow and forgotten, covered by buzzing flies and the occasional rat bold enough to stare you down like it owns the place. Which, to be fair, it kinda does. You gag. Not from the smell, you're used to that now. You gag from the memory of slipping into it 2 nights ago, in the dark, looking for a place to piss. Your boot hasn't forgiven you since. The wind shifts, carries a different flavour of horror. The butcher's tent. They say it's for the animals, that they slaughter goats and pigs when they get the chance. You've seen meat show up in stews, so that might be true. But the truth has teeth, and it's biting the back of your brain now. Because yesterday they brought in a body, covered in a tarp. Didn't look like a goat, didn't smell like one either. No one asked questions. Meat is meat when you're starving. You walk through camp. Mud sucks at your boots like it's got separation anxiety. Every step is an argument. Every breath is a gamble. The cooking fire is smouldering, if you can call it cooking. Boiling water crusted with fat and something that might be onion or might be toenail. You don't ask. You just sip. Burns your tongue, leaves your stomach empty and angrier than before. You sit on a crate. It's not your crate. Nothing here is. Ownership is a joke now. You own what you're touching. That's it. If you let go, it's gone. If you blink too long, it walks away. The guy next to you is sharpening a knife. Slowly, meticulously. He hasn't blinked in 10 minutes. You don't know his name. You don't want to, because if he dies, you'll forget him faster. Across the camp, a fire breaks out in a wagon wheel. Nobody runs to help. The wood was soaked anyway. It won't burn long. Someone laughs. It's not a happy sound. You rub your eyes. They're crusty, burned from smoke and whatever passed for soap in this hellhole. You haven't bathed in days, maybe weeks. You think about water. Not to drink, to wash, to feel clean again. Then you remember what happened to the last guy who bathed in the river. They found him 3 miles downstream, naked, gutted. The French don't believe in letting you die clean. The man sharpening the knife speaks. Smell that? He asks. You sniff, nod. Dead horse. He grunts. Not just the horse. You both fall silent. That's the game out here. Guess the smell. The winner doesn't die of dysentery that week. Behind you, someone's boiling laundry. Over a fire. In a pot that used to hold soup. It smells like wet dog and regret. You try to remember what clean clothes feel like. Can't. You try to remember the colour of your uniform. Brown, grey, once blue. Now it's just war-coloured. Everything is war-coloured now. A body is dragged past you on a sled, wrapped in canvas, feet sticking out, no ceremony, no prayers, just the slap of wet soles on the dirt. They're taking him to the pit. Not a grave, just a hole, mass, communal, quick. You won't get a cross, you won't get a name. You'll get thrown in like trash and buried by tired hands who don't have time to care. The guy with the knife mutters, I hope they throw me face down, so I don't have to watch the worms come. You don't respond. Because that's optimism now, hoping for the direction of your rot. Someone throws a bucket of waste into the brush. It splashes, loud, too close. You flinch. It hits your boot. Of course it does. You wipe it off with grass and a prayer. Another man limps by, arm in a sling, face pale and waxy. He's whimpering. Hasn't slept in 3 days. Keeps saying he smells roses. There are no roses here. They put him in the med tent. He won't come out. The flies buzz louder now. Something's died nearby. Recently. You sniff again. This one is fresh. Almost sweet. You gag. Again. You want to cry, but you're too dehydrated. So you spit. The glob hangs in the air for a second, then vanishes into the mud like it was never there. Just like you will. And for a brief, stupid second, you miss your mother's kitchen. Miss the smell of bread, of soap, of safety. You wish you could bottle that scent and wear it like armour. Because here, the air is poison. It gets in your lungs, in your clothes, in your soul. This camp doesn't just smell bad. It is bad, all the way through. And as you sit there, chewing a piece of biscuit that tastes like chalk and sadness, you realise something. The war hasn't even started today. This is just the warm-up. Just the stench before the scream. And you're already drowning in it. 3. Your boots are alive and they hate you. You wake up to the sound of boots. Not marching, not stomping, just existing. Your own boots. Still on, still wet, still filled with yesterday. They're not footwear anymore, they're punishment. And they've decided today is the day they finish what the musket couldn't. You sit up, immediately regret it. Your ankles ache. Your toes throb. Your calves feel like they've been filled with boiling sand. You try to pull one boot off. It doesn't move. Not a little, not at all. Your sock has fused with your foot. Your skin, what's left of it, has fused with the boot. You tug again. It resists like it has a soul. You finally get one off, not by pulling, by peeling. A wet, sucking noise follows, like ripping open a wound. Your foot hits the cold air and immediately revolts, blisters the size of your thumb, skin raw and red and curling. Your big toe is black around the nail. You don't feel pain anymore, just shame. You scrape away a layer of muck with your fingernails. Something squirms. A worm? A maggot? You blink and look away before your brain figures it out. You reach for the other boot. It hisses. No, not the boot. You. You hiss like a broken pipe as you yank it off. The heel peels open, the sole cracks, and something comes out with it, a smell, a sound, a part of your soul. You stare at your feet. They don't belong to you. They look like something dug up, bloated, broken, purple in places that shouldn't be purple, bones pressing from inside like they're trying to escape. Harris walks past, sees your face, laughs once, dry and humourless. Boots got you too? You nod, miserably. He sits down beside you and pulls off his own. One toe comes with the sock. He doesn't even flinch. Saves the surgeon some work, he mutters. He rubs some grease into his heel. You don't ask what it is. You don't want to know. Probably bacon fat or candle wax or whatever he could steal from the quartermaster. Anything to make the boots slide back on easier. Anything to make them hurt less. Because boots aren't just clothing anymore. They're part of the uniform. Part of the problem. Part of the war. You think about taking a walk, just to stretch. Then you remember the trench. The mud is deeper than your ankles, slick and thick and filled with memories. If you lose a boot down there, you don't get it back. The mud keeps what it eats. Someone tried walking barefoot last week. Thought he was clever. Thought blisters were worse than soaking in filth. He got a nail through his heel. Rusty, dirty, deep. They amputated the next day. He's dead now. But hey, at least his boots were clean. You lace yours back up, slowly, carefully. Each knot is a compromise. Too tight and the blood stops flowing. Too loose and they'll fall off when you're crawling for your life. You find the balance. There is no comfort, only trade-offs. A captain barks orders nearby. Says you're marching out at noon. Marching. Like it's a normal word. Like it means movement, not agony. Your boots hear it and laugh. They know what's coming. They know the road's not paved. It's rocks, twigs, frozen mud, manure, bone. It's 1,000 steps between now and nowhere, and each one will cost you skin. You think about your old shoes, the ones back home. Soft leather, lined, light. The kind you wore to church. The kind that tapped on stone streets like they had confidence. You'd kill for those shoes now. But even if you had them, they wouldn't last a mile out here. They weren't made for this. Nothing was. You stand, the boots creak. Not from age, from defiance. They don't want to move, neither do you. But you both do. Because orders are orders, and pain is routine. You step out. First step sharp, jolt up your shin. Second step squish of wet sock against skin. Third step your heel catches on something and you nearly fall. You don't fall. You never fall. Not because you're strong. Because falling means staying down. And staying down means you die with your boots on. Which, somehow, is supposed to be noble. You drag yourself to formation. The line smells like wet dog and lost hope. Everyone's boots look the same, swollen, split, muddy, angry. A few are tied with string. A few have leather patches nailed into the soles with bent nails. One guy wrapped his in rags. Another gave up entirely and strapped wooden planks to his feet with twine. Whatever keeps the blood in and the cold out. The sergeant marches past. He's got polished boots. You hate him for that. He stops, points at your feet. You limping. You shake your head. He nods once, moves on. Because if you were limping, you'd be on the casualty list by sundown. And no one wants to be on that list. You march. It hurts. You breathe through your teeth. You count steps. 10 at a time. 100 at a time. Just make it to the next bend, the next tree, the next puddle. That's how you survive now. Landmarks and lies. By midday, your toes are numb again. Your heel is bleeding, but your boots are still on. Barely. And you think maybe that's the point. Maybe war isn't won with muskets. Maybe it's won by the last guy still standing in broken boots. Because if your feet fail, you fail. And failure here isn't written in red ink. It's buried 6 feet deep. Face down. Boots still on. 4. A breakfast of mould and misery. You wake up hungry. But that word doesn't mean what it used to. Hunger now is a steady ache that hums behind your ribs like a second heartbeat. It's not urgent, not dramatic, just always there. Like the cold, like the flies, like the war. You sit up. Bad idea. Your stomach churns, not with nausea, with emptiness. You feel every creak of your spine, every pop of your joints. Your body is eating itself, and even that's taking too long. Someone outside yells chow. No one moves fast. No one cheers. Just a few groans, a few muttered curses, and the slow limping procession of men who remember what food used to be. You grab your tin and stand in line. The line smells like everything else here. Sweat, shit, and silent desperation. The guy in front of you is chewing nothing, just moving his jaw like it misses the idea of food. The guy behind you is holding an empty spoon and staring at it like it might start praying. You reach the front. Today's meal is stew. That's what the cook calls it, with a straight face. It's mostly water, brownish, floating with bits. You stopped trying to identify the bits weeks ago. One time you found a fingernail. No one cared. You hold out your tin. The ladle drops something inside. It plops, splashes, steams slightly. You don't look. You don't thank him. You shuffle away. You find a spot by a fallen log. Sit down carefully. Your knees click. Your spine cracks. Your stomach whines. You take a bite. It tastes like a boot soaked in broth and regret. The bread is worse. Stale, mouldy, dense. You knock it against the log. It sounds like wood. You sniff it. It smells like wet stone and mildew. You chew, slowly, methodically, not for pleasure, for survival. Every bite is work, every swallow is a gamble. You once saw a man choke on this bread. They tried to slap it out of him, didn't work. He died with mould on his lips and crumbs in his lungs. Nobody blamed the bread. They blamed him for chewing wrong. You sip the stew. It's warm. That's the only compliment you can give it. There's a chunk of something in the bottom. Meat, maybe. Or root. Or both. You fish it out with your fingers. Pop it in your mouth. It's chewy. You don't chew too long. Just in case your brain figures out what it is. Across from you, Harris is eating with his eyes closed. His lips are moving. You think he's praying, or pretending the food is something else. You ask, "What is it today?" He doesn't open his eyes. "Beef," he lies. You both know it isn't. There hasn't been beef since before your boots started talking back. You eat the rest. Not because it's good, not because it's enough, because it's all there is. You wipe your tin with a rag that used to be a sock, cleanish. You glance around the camp. A few men are still eating, A few are already lying down, trying to pretend their stomachs don't feel like hollow drums. One guy throws up, right onto his boots. No one reacts. You hear someone mutter, "Waste of calories." You finish your meal, all 3 sad spoonfuls of it. You try to remember what breakfast used to be. Eggs, toast, bacon, coffee. You try to remember the smell, the sound of a kettle, the way a kitchen feels when it's alive and human. It doesn't come back. Just mud. Just flies. Just this. A bowl of hot water and a crust of bread that could break a tooth. You lie back. Stare at the sky. It's grey, featureless, like soup without salt. Your belly gurgles loudly. You press your hands over it like that'll help. It won't. Tomorrow you'll wake up hungrier. You know it, everyone does. There's not enough food, there hasn't been for days. The quartermaster lies through his teeth. Says reinforcements are coming. Says rations are delayed. Says the wagons got stuck in the rain. You know the truth. The officers eat first, then the horses, then maybe the rest of you. You've started dreaming about food, not feasts, not parties. Just simple things. An apple, a bowl of soup, a loaf of bread that bends when you squeeze it. You wake up with your mouth watering. Then you eat this. And your mouth just stops trying. Someone yells your name. You sit up. Drill time. Of course it is. Nothing like marching in wet wool on an empty stomach to remind you who owns your soul. You toss your tin aside. It clangs, rolls, disappears into the mud. You don't chase it. Not because you're careless. Because there's nothing left to catch. And as you join the line of dead-eyed men stumbling towards another hour of yelling and useless manoeuvres, your stomach twists again. Not in hunger, in protest. Because this isn't breakfast. It's a slow execution. With a spoon. 5. Disciplined by drum beat and whip. The drum starts before the sun's fully up. Boom, boom, pause, boom again. Not music, not rhythm, just control. It doesn't call you to battle, it calls you to obedience. You stand, because that's what the drum tells you to do. Your legs protest, your back screams, your boots squish with old mud and older blood. But you move, because out here the drum outranks pain. Formation is a joke today. Crooked lines, bent bodies, blank faces. You all look like scarecrows someone tried to turn into soldiers. A sergeant walks the line. He's not big, not loud, but the whip on his belt makes him 10 feet tall. He stops in front of a young recruit, barely 17, fresh mud still on his cuffs. Probably joined last month thinking he'd come back with medals and stories. He sneezes, just once, and the whip's off the sergeant's belt before anyone blinks. Crack like thunder. The boy flinches, stumbles back, drops his musket. Bad mistake. Another crack. This one hits skin, everyone hears it. The boy doesn't scream. That's mistake number 2. Because out here, silence looks like defiance. The third strike lands across his cheek, opens it, a line of red against pale, shaking skin. This time he yells. Good. That saves him from a 4th. The sergeant snarls. Anyone else want to get clever? No one does. You grip your musket tighter, not out of readiness, out of instinct, like it might protect you from the next lashing. It won't. The sergeant keeps walking. You don't meet his eyes. That's the first rule. Never meet their eyes. Respect isn't spoken here, it's performed. It's bent spines and lowered heads and quick nods when barked at. Another man is pulled out of line, older, beard down to his chest, probably hasn't spoken to anyone in a week. They say he was hoarding biscuits. Someone reported him. No trial, no questions. Just proof a crust of bread in his bedroll and a face that looks too guilty to argue. The captain reads a list of charges. No one listens. Then the post is set up. A wooden stake, 2 ropes. You've seen it before. You'll see it again. They strip the man to the waist. His back is already scarred, old lashes, crooked, puckered. You think, how many times has he stood there? The answer doesn't matter, because today it's happening again. The drummer starts, 1 beat for each lash, 20 in total. The whip whistles, then cracks. The sound is worse than the sight, but the sight is bad too. Red lines, splitting skin, blood blooming like flowers across a dead field. No one cries, no one winces, not him, not you. You just count, because counting is safer than caring. By the 10th lash, the man's knees buckle. By 15, he's silent. At 20, he's not moving. They cut him down. He crumples. They leave him there. Discipline, I call it. Justice. But you know what it really is. It's a message. To you, to everyone. You step out of line. The whip brings you back. Sometimes in pieces. You march after that. For hours. Not toward battle, just in circles. Just to show you still can. Your muscles ache. Your shoulders burn. The sun is high now and sweat mixes with grime, creating a new kind of discomfort. The officer in charge rides by on a horse that's cleaner than most of the men here. He doesn't look down. He doesn't need to. He has the whip. You've got nothing. You pass a man tied to a tree. His eyes are swollen shut. His mouth is bloody. A sign hangs from his neck. It says thief. Probably stole a coat or a spoon or a nap. He'll be untied tomorrow, if he survives the night. The drummer doesn't stop, even when you stop walking. Boom, boom, boom. It echoes in your teeth, in your ribs, in your skull. They say the drum keeps time, but you know the truth. It keeps fear alive, because as long as it's beating, someone's still watching, waiting, punishing. The officers talk about honour, about courage, about duty. But the whip teaches a different lesson. Here's what it says. You're not a man, you're a tool, a body in a line, a name on a list, a mouth that better stay shut. You think about rebelling for a second. Then you remember what they did to the last man who spoke up. The one who called the captain a coward. They nailed his tongue to a plank, then made him stand in the centre of camp all night. By morning the tongue was black, and so was the sky. You never saw him again. You never heard anyone speak against command again either. The drum slows, 1 beat, then silence. That's your cue. Fall out. Eat. Sleep. March again. But not too slow, not too loud, not too much. Or the whip remembers your name. You lie down that night. The welts on your back aren't yours not yet, but they will be. Sooner or later. No one gets out clean. You sleep lightly, because the whip sleeps too. But it always wakes up first. 6. When the latrine becomes your grave, it's the middle of the night. You wake up sweating even though it's freezing. Your stomach's doing something it shouldn't. Twisting, grinding. Like someone stirred a pot of bad stew in your gut with a bayonet. You know what this is. Everyone in camp knows. The stomach death. They call it dysentery in the medical tent. They call it bad luck in the ranks. But you call it what it is. An execution from the inside out. You stumble outside your tent, hand over your mouth, knees barely holding. Someone grunts in their sleep as you step over them. Someone else rolls over and groans. The moon is out, cold and pale like a dead man's eye. You limp toward the latrine trench. There's no path, just a trail of old footprints and regrets. The smell hits first. Sharp, wet, sick. Like a rotting barnyard after a flood, the trench is nothing more than a pit with splintered planks set over it like some sick balance beam. You reach it, barely. And then it hits. You drop your trousers, squat, and the flood comes. It's not solid. It's not controlled. It's not dignified. It's violent, fast, endless. Like your body gave up and flushed itself out of spite. You double over, you sweat, you shiver. Every time you breathe, the stink hits deeper. You gag, almost fall forward into the pit. That happens sometimes. They don't always find the bodies. And when they do, they don't pull them out. They just shovel more dirt on top and dig a new hole. You hear a splash below. Don't look down. You wipe with a scrap of uniform. Doesn't matter. Your trousers are soaked anyway. Your thighs burn. Your hands shake. You've lost too much water. Too much everything. You sit down in the dirt next to the trench because standing feels like a bad idea. And that's when you notice him, a body, slumped beside the latrine. Face down, pants still halfway off, eyes open. You lean closer. Don't recognize him. Doesn't matter. He died here, just like this, in the mud, in the stink, with no prayers, no flags, no farewell. You think about moving him, then your stomach cramps again. You double over. You're next. You crawl away from the trench and lie on your back. The stars swirl overhead. You used to wish on stars. Now they just watch. Unblinking, cold, distant, like officers in the sky. You hear footsteps. Someone else is coming. They stumble into view, pants already down, groaning, pale as bone. They don't see you. They barely see the trench. They collapse on their knees, lean forward, and let loose the same hell. You close your eyes, pretend you're somewhere else. A bathhouse, a bed, a street market with smells that don't kill. But the wind shifts, and you're here again, by the pit, by the smell, by the line of men waiting their turn at death's shallow ditch. Morning comes grey. You're still alive, technically. Your lips are cracked, your legs barely work. You haven't eaten since yesterday, maybe longer. But your guts have emptied themselves like a broken wineskin. You stand up, stagger. Someone hands you a canteen. You sip, just a little. Too much, too fast, and it'll all come back out. You see a man lying on his side. They say he bled from both ends. They say it started at breakfast and he was dead by dinner. You don't want to believe that. But your stomach believes everything now. You stagger toward the fire, try to get warm. You feel your bones from the inside out. You feel hollow, not spiritual, physical, like a bag of damp sticks wrapped in wool. Someone passes a bowl of soup. You sniff it, risk a sip. Your belly turns. You hand it back. Can't eat, not today. Maybe not ever again. You sit in the dirt and wrap your arms around yourself. You're not praying, you're just trying to stay together. Because if your guts go again, you might not make it back to the trench. You hear the lieutenant complaining. Says the latrines are unsanitary. Says the men should be more careful. You want to laugh, but it would turn into a cough. He says they'll dig new pits further out. You know that won't help, because the disease isn't in the hole. It's in the camp, in the water, in the food, in the very breath of the men around you. It's in the flies that land on your face when you sleep. It's in the hands that stirred the soup. It's in the blanket you share with 3 other men who all wake up sweating. Discipline won't fix it. Punishment won't scare it off. It's not afraid of the whip. It's not afraid of muskets. It just waits. Quiet. Patient. like rot in the walls, like a ghost in the trenches. You feel another cramp. No. You bite your lip, breathe slow, try to will it away. You think, if I can make it to nightfall, I'll be okay. Then you remember you said that yesterday, and the day before. And one day soon it won't be true anymore. Because out here, the enemy doesn't always carry a blade. Sometimes it lives in your belly and digs your grave while you're squatting. 7. The surgeon will see you now with a saw. You wake up screaming, not from a dream, from your leg. Something's wrong with it. Worse than yesterday. Worse than ever. It's hot, swollen. The skin is tight, shiny, stretched over something that feels like it's moving underneath. You pull back your blanket. The colour hits you first. Not red, not bruised. Purple, black, yellow. A sunset of infection. You poke it. Bad idea. The skin splits a little. Yellow pus oozes out, thick and foul. The smell hits a second later. You gag. So does Harris when he leans over and sees it. Jesus, he mutters. You need the doc. The word makes your blood go colder than your foot. The doc. Not a doctor. A surgeon. And not the kind with clean gloves and calm voices. This one. He has a rusty saw, 3 assistants, and a bottle of rum. No anaesthesia, no ethics, no guarantee you'll wake up. You limp to the tent. Not because you want to, because you can't walk without screaming anymore. The surgeon's tent is worse than the latrines. The smell isn't just bad, it's permanent. It clings to your nostrils, settles in your throat, sticks to your tongue like spoiled grease. Blood, rot, burned cloth, steel. Inside there's a table, more a plank really, covered in canvas, stained in ways that no amount of rain will ever clean. There are limbs in a pile near the flap. You don't look long, but you count 3 legs, 2 arms, 1 hand still wearing a wedding ring. You limp forward. The surgeon doesn't look up, just waves a hand like he's checking cattle. Where? You point to your leg. He grunts, pulls out a blade. Cuts your pant leg open with a flick. The assistants hold you down, no warning. Wait, you stammer. Can't you? Too late. He presses on the wound. You scream. The infection bursts. The pus sprays onto the floor like a popped blister from hell. Someone curses. Someone else laughs. You want to pass out. But you don't. Which is worse. Because now you feel everything. The pressure, the tearing, the scraping of a metal on bone. He pokes around with a probe, pulls out something solid. A splinter or a chunk of lead. You don't know. Don't ask. He drops it into a tin with a clink. That's the good news, he says. You're still screaming. He doesn't care. The assistants hold you tighter. Bad news, he continues, is the rot. You shake your head. Beg. Plead. Bargain. He shrugs. Up to you. Let it spread. You'll be dead by Thursday. He holds up the saw. It's not shiny. It's not clean. It's not fast. You stare at it like it's alive. And maybe it is. Maybe it's fed on so much pain it's grown a soul. He pours rum over it. Then over your thigh. Then into your mouth. You gag on the taste, spit half of it up. Hold him, the surgeon says. And they do. 1 on each shoulder, 1 on your chest. Your arms are pinned. Your voice is gone. The saw touches your skin. Then it begins. Screech! The blade bites. You buck. They tighten their grip. Screech! You scream. It's not a human sound. It's something primal, animal, older than words. The saw pushes deeper. You feel it. Every tooth, every jerk, every nerve lighting up like fire in your veins. You see stars. You see black. You see your mother's face. And then silence. Not because it's over, because your brain leaves. It steps out for a while, says, "No thanks, I'm done." When you wake up, it's darker, quieter. You're on a cot. Your leg is gone. From the knee down, there's nothing. Just a stump wrapped in blood-soaked rags. You don't cry. You don't move. You don't speak. You just lie there, staring at the flap of the tent. Someone moans nearby. Someone else whimpers. "Make it stop." The surgeon's voice cuts through it all. Next, the saw screeches again. You clench your fists. Not from pain, from rage. Because they told you losing a limb was the price of heroism. But there's nothing heroic about this. No medals, no glory, no trumpet fanfare. Just blood on the dirt and a body that's one piece closer to broken. Later, Harris limps in. Sees you, doesn't speak. Just sits down and says, "At least you still got one." You nod, because that's the truth. That's the comfort. That's the survival rate now. You wake up with one less piece and count yourself lucky. The night is long. The screams don't stop. You stare at the ceiling of the tent, and you realize something. The surgeon isn't here to save you. He's here to cut away the part that's losing. You survived the saw, this time, but you wonder, how many more parts of you will rot before the rest catches up? 8. March until your feet dissolve. They say we march at dawn. They always say that. But dawn's not a time anymore, it's a threat. And when it comes, it's not with sunrise and birdsong. It comes with a drum beat, the clink of gear, and a sergeant yelling, "Up, up, move." You rise, not because you're ready, because you don't have a choice. Your leg, the one that's left, is stiff. Your other limb, now a bandaged stump, itches like it wants revenge. You've been cleared to move, that's the term they used. Cleared? Like your body is paperwork that's passed inspection. You swing your pack over your shoulder. It drags you backward like a sack of bricks filled with regret. 80 pounds of misery, musket, powder, canteen, biscuit, shovel, blanket, maybe a letter from home, if you're lucky. You tighten the straps on your one remaining boot, and you march. The road is mud. Of course it is. Even if it hadn't rained and it has the ground's been pounded flat by 1,000 other boots, wagon wheels and hoof prints. Every step is a suck, a squish, a pull. Your toes grip like claws just to stay upright. Your socks, already damp, are now full sponges. The man behind you coughs hard enough to rattle his ribs. The man in front limps. The whole line moves like an old centipede, slow, miserable, always about to collapse. The pace isn't fast. That's not the point. The point is constant. No stops. No breaks. If you collapse, you're a speed bump. If you cry, you're ignored. If you quit, you die. Simple. You pass dead horses first, then dead men. You don't look at the faces. Because you might know one. Because you might be one tomorrow, maybe even tonight. The sun crawls higher. It doesn't warm you. It just makes the sweat stick harder. Your coat's soaked. Your shirt's worse. Every time the wind blows, you feel it through the holes in your boots. The ground changes. Not better, just different. Now it's gravel, sharp, dry. You hear a crunch and feel warmth in your heel. You're bleeding, but you keep walking. Because stopping, that's not a thing. You chew a biscuit as you walk. It tastes like chalk and memories. You sip your water. It tastes like rust. You shift your pack, adjust your musket strap, rub your neck where the canvas has rubbed skin raw. Still marching. You pass a village or what's left of it. Just chimneys, scorched beams, and a single window frame still swinging in the wind like it's waving goodbye. The villagers are gone. Or buried. You don't ask which. Someone steps in a pothole, goes down hard, twists an ankle, screams. They pull him out of the way. He'll catch up. Or he won't. But the column doesn't stop. You look down at your feet again. They don't look like feet anymore. They're swollen, discoloured. You can't feel your toes. One toenail is missing, another's hanging on like it owes you money. You won't check under the socks, not yet, because you're afraid of what's in there. Because the last time someone checked, they peeled their sock off and took their skin with it. He walked on raw muscle for another day before collapsing in a ditch and never getting back up. You march past his grave later. A pile of rocks, no name. Just a boot sticking out of the dirt like it's trying to escape. The wind picks up. You pull your coat tighter. It doesn't help. The air smells like rain, wet ash, and bodies. You glance up. Harris is up ahead. He's hobbling, left foot dragging slightly. You catch up to him. He glances at you, then down at your foot. You limping or just fancy now? You try to smile. It comes out as a twitch. He shrugs. My heel's split open. Looks like a cracked melon. Tied it shut with bootlace. He walks faster after that. You let him. Because talking costs energy. And your energy's gone into keeping one foot in front of the other. You reach a hill. Of course you do. Your legs beg. Your back screams. You climb anyway. The dirt slips. Your balance tilts. You push harder. Reach the top. Look back. The line behind you is endless. Men, wagons, officers on horseback, and boots. So many boots. Each one dragging a man closer to something he didn't ask for. Each one swallowing another layer of soul with every step. You go down the other side. The descent's worse. Slippery, steep. Your leg shakes. Your foot slides. You catch yourself, barely. The guy behind you isn't so lucky. He falls, rolls, stops moving. You hear a bone snap. You keep going, because that's what marching is. It's not movement. It's erosion of flesh, of thought, of identity. By evening you stop. Not because you're done, because they say halt. You drop your pack like it's on fire. Sit. Check your feet. You peel the boot off. It's bad. Blisters. Blood. Toenail gone. Skin raw, pale, wrinkled like wet parchment. Your sock looks like it's fused to your foot. You tug it gently. It peels like old paint. You hiss. You check the stump. Still intact. Still infected. Still yours barely. You wrap it again. Tighter. Not for comfort. For containment. Someone passes you a ladle of soup. You drink it. It tastes like bark and burnt onion. You lie down in the dirt. The wind howls. Your feet throb like war drums. And in the back of your mind, one thought digs its claws in. Tomorrow? You do this again. And again. Until you reach the front. Or fall apart. Whichever comes first. 9. Why the drummer boy has seen more death than you ever will. You hear the drum before you see him. That dull, steady thump that seems to echo through your ribs more than your ears. It's not music. It's not even rhythm. It's a heartbeat for the dying. He's just a kid. No older than 12, maybe 13, if the lice haven't already stunted him. Tiny hands, hollow cheeks, eyes too big for his head, eyes too old for his face. He wears a coat that doesn't fit, sleeves rolled up and still dragging. His drum is bigger than his chest. But he beats it like it's keeping the sun in the sky. One hand grips the stick, The other shakes. Not from fear, from memory. Because this isn't his first march, not even his 50th. You watch him from across the campfire. He's tapping out a cadence for a squad heading to the front. One of them stops to tie his boot. The boy doesn't stop. He just stares ahead, eyes glassy, beat never missing. Because the drum doesn't pause, and neither does death. You sit across from him later. No introduction. Just a shared bowl of soup and the flicker of flames between you. His fingers are raw, calloused, wrapped in old cloth torn from someone's sleeve. He picks at the bread like it offended him. You ask, "How long have you been marching?" He shrugs. "Since Metz." That was 2 years ago. You stare. He doesn't look up. "My brother joined first," he says. "Took a musket to the throat. They gave me the drum." "Why not send you home?" He shrugs again. "Too expensive." You don't speak, because there's nothing to say to that. Not here, not anymore. Later he plays again. Not for marching, for mourning. That slow 3-beat rhythm you hear after a skirmish, after the groaning stops, after the screaming fades, when the dead outnumber the standing. You follow the sound, find the boy kneeling near a ditch. 5 men inside. One's missing a face. One's clutching his stomach like he forgot he's already dead. The drummer plays anyway. Soft, steady, unblinking. The sergeant nods at him, says, "Enough." The boy stops, drops the sticks into the drum, walks away, like nothing happened. But you know better. You saw his shoulders stiffen. You saw his jaw tighten. Because here's the truth no one writes in the dispatches. The drummer boy sees everything. He doesn't fire, doesn't reload, doesn't charge with a bayonet. But he's there. Always. At the start, he plays you into the blood. At the end, he plays you out of it. He's watched more men die than most officers. He's stepped over more corpses than a gravedigger. And through it all, the beat never stops. Boom, boom, boom. You catch him alone that evening, sitting near the wagons, drum on his lap, stick tapping against the rim in an absent rhythm that sounds like breathing. You ask, why keep playing? He glances at you, doesn't smile. If I stop, he says, someone else will have to hear it. You nod, because you get it now. The drum isn't for orders, it's for protection. A noise to drown out the begging, the dying, the sounds you carry into sleep and wake up choking on. He taps again, slow, hollow. You ever seen a man try to put his guts back in? He asks. You blink. He keeps tapping. I have. He was trying to stuff them in with his hat. Kept saying he had to look proper. He looks up. I played while he died, 'cause I couldn't stand the way he sounded. You don't speak, because you know the sound. You've heard it too, and you'd do anything to unhear it. Even play a drum until your fingers bleed. He stands, shoulders his drum, walks away. The fire crackles. You sit there a long time listening to the silence he left behind. It's louder than the drum, louder than the screams, because the boy is still alive. But he's already buried more than you ever will. Not with shovels, with rhythm. And you know when your time comes, when your legs give out and your lungs fill with mud and your eyes see the edge of whatever comes next, he'll be there, standing nearby, not crying, not praying, just playing, steady, soft, boom, boom, boom. 10. Rain, rats, and rotting feet. It rains. Again, and again, and again. You don't remember when it started. You don't remember when it stopped. Because it doesn't stop. Not really. It just changes. From drizzle to downpour, from mist to flood, From gentle taps on the tent roof to full-blown water, torture from the gods. Your blanket is soaked, your coat is soaked, your soul is soaked. You've given up trying to dry anything. You've learned the hierarchy of misery here. Hunger is bad, pain is worse, but wet is forever. You step outside and the mud swallows your foot like it missed you. You pull, it fights. Eventually you win, but it leaves part of your boot behind. You check the hole, water's rising, slowly, patiently, like it knows it has time. Everything smells damp, not fresh, not clean. Damp the scent of mould, mildew, old wool and piss. Someone shivers past you, wrapped in 2 coats and a scarf made from someone else's trousers. He's muttering about lightning. There is no lightning, just thunder far off and the steady, never-ending whisper of rain on canvas. Your socks haven't been dry in 6 days. You think about changing them. You even reach for your pack. But then you remember, the dry pair are wetter than the wet pair. You sit back down. Water creeps into your collar. You don't flinch. That stopped mattering on day 3. Your feet are the worst. They stink, they squish. They've started peeling in places. Trench foot, they call it, though no one's dug a proper trench in a month. You pull off your boot. The sock comes with it, along with a layer of skin. You gag. Your toes are grey, the nails are yellow. There's a crack along the ball of your foot that looks like a dried riverbed. You poke it, pus leaks out. You poke again. A worm moves. Or maybe it was just a nerve twitching. Either way, you cover it back up and pretend you didn't see. Someone else isn't so lucky. They scream. A real one, not anger, not pain, terror. You follow the sound. Find a man half collapsed on a crate, leg in the air, boot off. A rat is hanging from his foot by its teeth. He's swatting it, kicking, yelling. Another soldier rushes over, clubs the thing with a mess tin. It squeals, then dies. The man sobs, loud, broken, helpless. His foot is bleeding, deep, ragged. You see bone. Someone whispers, "That's the 3rd one this week." The rats aren't scared anymore. They used to scatter when the fires flared up or boots stomped near. Now they just wait. Wait until you sleep, until you stop moving. Then they come. Quiet, confident. They go for the easy parts. Fingers, toes, eyes if they're lucky. You go back to your tent. Pull your blanket tighter. Even though it's soaked. Even though it stinks. Even though it might already be hosting more than one parasite. At least it's yours. You lie down. Try not to breathe through your nose. Your feet throb. One of them is twitching. Not from cold, from nerves dying. You think about reporting to the medic. Then you remember the line. 30 men deep. Coughing, moaning, bleeding. All hoping for a bandage or a shot of vinegar to kill the bugs in their guts. You'll wait. Your foot isn't gone yet. Across the camp someone sings. It's soft. Off-key. German? French? You don't know. But it's weirdly calming. You close your eyes. Try to sleep. But the rain keeps tapping. The rats keep scratching. And your foot? It's still rotting. Still attached. For now. 11. The officer drinks. You die. You hear the cork pop before you see him. That soft, smug little pop. The kind that means someone somewhere has something to celebrate. Only no one's celebrating down here. Because you're not up there with the officers. You're down here, in the dirt. You see him after muster. Captain Marceau. Clean coat, shiny boots, gloves without holes, sword polished so well you could comb your hair in the reflection if you still had any left. He sits under a tarp with a table, a chair, a bottle, and a face that hasn't seen a bad night's sleep in a month. He pours. He drinks. He smiles. Meanwhile, you're licking the inside of your canteen trying to remember what clean water tastes like. The man next to you has dysentery. The one across from you lost 3 fingers to frostbite last week. And the officer? He just ordered another case of wine. You want to hate him, but you don't have the energy. You just watch. Watch as he eats meat still warm from the pan. Watch as his servant fans away flies while you're too weak to slap your own. Watch as he laughs. Loud, open-mouthed, like the war's a dinner joke that never gets old. You hear it again later, the cork. Pop, another bottle. You haven't had real bread in 2 weeks. You haven't felt full in 2 months. He's on his 3rd glass. You see him again during inspection. He walks by, doesn't look down, doesn't see you. He smells clean, like powder and lemon soap. You smell like the latrine pit had a child with a plague victim. He says, "Good work, men," and moves on. That's it. You almost laugh. Good work. For what? Not dying yet? Carrying a musket you can barely load with fingers too numb to feel? Wearing a coat that's now more lice than fabric? Your stomach growls. Loud. The officer hears it. Smiles, nods. Takes a bite of apple. A fresh one. You'd kill for that apple. You've seen men kill for less. You remember the story? Last winter, 2 privates stabbed a cook over a carrot. A carrot. The officer sentenced them both to lashings. Then ate the carrot. You lie in your tent that night. Listen to the bottle again. Pop. It's become a kind of rhythm, like the drum, but crueler. Because every time you hear it, you remember the truth. He drinks, you die. He sleeps in warmth while you curl around a damp sock pretending it's a pillow. He eats pork while you chew on a root so bitter your tongue goes numb. He gives speeches. You give blood. It's not just unfair. It's a joke. And the punchline is always the same. You're expendable. You're a name on a list, a mouth to feed, a uniform to fill. He loses 10 men. He shrugs. You lose a toe, you limp for life. You start to understand why men desert. Not for freedom, not even for safety. Just to not be used anymore. But you also remember the last deserter. They caught him, dragged him back, marched him into the square. The officer gave a speech, something about loyalty, brotherhood, then nodded. And the firing squad turned the man into meat. The officer sipped wine while it happened. Didn't flinch. You wonder what vintage pairs best with execution. You fall asleep that night thinking about it. You dream of apples, of wine, of warm hands and soft beds. Then you wake up. In the same damp wool, in the same cold air, to the same sound. Pop, another bottle. Another toast to the war he'll never truly fight. And you? You get to keep marching, keep bleeding, keep dying, so he can keep drinking. 12. You haven't seen a mirror in months, and it's better that way. There are no mirrors in camp. Not broken ones, not polished steel, not puddles worth looking into. No one's checking their reflection out here, because no one wants to see what's looking back. You catch a glimpse one day by accident. A piece of tin, part of a shattered mess kit. Sunlight hits it just right. You lean down, just a glance, and you see it. You. Except it's not. It's a stranger with hollow eyes, sunken cheeks, lips cracked and white with fever. Skin pulled tight across bones that used to have names. The nose is crooked. There's a scar on your eyebrow you don't remember getting. Your beard grows in patches, filthy, greasy, streaked with something that might be blood or might be stew from 2 nights ago. You look away, fast. The worst part isn't what you saw. The worst part is realizing how much of it felt normal. You've forgotten what your own face looked like before this. Not just how it looked, how it felt. You remember shaving. You remember water warm enough not to hurt. You remember trimming your hair with scissors in a mirror. Now, you're afraid to touch your scalp, afraid something might crawl out. Someone says, "You look like hell." You nod. Hell wishes it looked this good. He laughs, one of those dry, hopeless chuckles that sounds more like a cough. You check your hands. Dirt under every nail, skin peeling at the knuckles, lines you don't remember ever having. You swear you aged a decade in a week. There's a mirror shard in the surgeon's tent. Used to check eye dilation, or maybe just to make sure no one's chewing their own tongue during amputations. You saw a guy looking into it once, just staring. 5 minutes, maybe longer. Not fixing his hair, not checking a wound, just staring. Then he broke it, smashed it with his boot. Said the reflection was lying. No one blamed him, because the truth is the mirror isn't lying. Your face is. It says you're still human, but you know better. Your mind's gone soft in places. You forget names, orders, dates. You wake up unsure where you are, who you are. You dream in colour, then wake to grey. You write a letter to your mother, then can't remember if she's still alive. You tell yourself you'll clean up, shave, scrub, maybe find a comb. Then the next shell lands, and the idea feels like comedy. You try not to smell yourself, but you do. It clings. Not just the stink of sweat and rot and damp wool. The stink of fear. It seeps into your pores, into your uniform, into your very breath. One man tried to wash himself in the rain. Stripped down, stood outside his tent, arms out like a statue. It didn't help. He was clean for 3 minutes, then slipped in the mud and broke 2 ribs. Now he doesn't get up at all. Your lips are always chapped. Your teeth hurt, all of them. You wonder how many will fall out before the next battle. You'd smile to check, but that would mean smiling, and there's no time for jokes here. The drummer boy still looks like a ghost, but even he's started to blend in. His face doesn't change anymore, just his drum. They say the lieutenant's growing a beard now, a real one, not for style, for hiding, a way to forget who he used to be under all that hair. Because the only clean faces in camp belong to the dead. The surgeon shaves them before burial, for dignity, he says, as if there's anything dignified about being dropped into a hole with no name and no prayers. You lie down that night. You don't pull your blanket up. You pull it over your face. Not to sleep, to not see. And for one brief second you understand the genius of war. It doesn't have to kill you fast. It just has to make you forget who you were. And once you stop recognizing your reflection, that's when the war knows it's won. 13. Midnight screams from the tent next door. It starts with a sound. Low at first, barely audible over the rustle of canvas and the drip of rain from the tent seams. Then it rises. A gasp. Then a groan. Then a scream. You sit up. So does Harris. You don't say anything, because you know exactly what it is. The tent next to yours, the one with the missing flap and the puddle that never dries, that's where they've put the new ones. The ones too broken to march, too fevered to think, too fresh to know the screaming doesn't help. You hear it again. Longer now, cracked down the middle like someone screaming through sandpaper. You count to 10. He doesn't stop. The others groan. One man curses. Another pulls his blanket tighter. But no one gets up. Because this happens every night. There's always a scream. Sometimes 2. Last week it was a man with half a leg and a fever so bad he tried to claw his way into the mud to cool down. He didn't make it far. You helped carry him back, He died by morning. Tonight's scream is different. It's got panic in it. You hear stumbling, the thump of bodies shifting. A crash, maybe someone knocked over a cot. Then something else. Sobbing. Deep, desperate sobbing. You close your eyes, try to ignore it. Harris doesn't bother. He's staring at the roof of the tent like it owes him answers. Who is it, you ask softly. He shrugs. New recruit. From Alsace, maybe. Or Brittany. One of the ones with the soft hands. That explains it. The ones with soft hands always scream the longest. You roll over. The sobbing turns back into screams. Louder now, like he's trying to peel his own lungs out. You hear a medic's voice, low, firm, tired. A command. Hold him. Then a sharp snap. A grunt. He's being strapped down. You know the sound of leather tightening around wrists, around ankles. You know what comes next. The voice says, bite this. Then the sound stops. Not because he's silent. Because now it's muffled. They've shoved a rag into his mouth, maybe a stick. Maybe just their hand. Anything to keep the others from waking up. But you're already awake. And you can still hear it. The high-pitched whine of someone who doesn't know how close they are to dying. Or worse, someone who does know and doesn't want to go. You stare at the side of the tent, the thin wall of fabric between you and him. You imagine reaching out, pulling it back, looking him in the eyes. You don't. You never do. Because if you look, you remember. That was you once. Mouth full of screams, eyes wild, skin hot and slick with fear. Back when you still thought someone might come help you. The man next to you turns over, mumbles something about shutting him up. Harris just says, he'll stop soon. You wait. 5 minutes, 10. The screams taper off. Not suddenly. They just fade, like someone turning down the volume on a memory. You hear coughing now. Wet. Hollow. Then quiet. Too quiet. You lie back. The cot groans beneath you. The silence is worse than the screaming. Because now you have to wonder, did he fall asleep? Or did he die? You don't ask. No one ever asks. If he's alive in the morning, they'll carry him out and hose down the cot. If he's not, they'll strip him, wrap him, dump him. And someone else will scream in that same spot tomorrow. You close your eyes. Try to imagine silence without death behind it. You can't. Out here, everything means something else. Silence means bodies. Screaming means breath. And sleep? Sleep means surrender. The man in the next tent starts again. Not a scream this time. Just whimpering. Soft. Repetitive. Like a lullaby turned inside out. You don't open your eyes. You don't speak. You just wait for him to stop. Because he will. They all do. Eventually. 14. Desertion is a crime and a dream. You never say it out loud. No one does. But it's there. Always. Sitting behind your teeth. Curled up like a snake in your skull. The thought. The wish. The dream. Just leave. Walk into the trees. Disappear into the dark. Slip away while no one's looking. No more marching. No more boots. No more officers barking nonsense at 4 a.m. No more mud. No more war. You think about it constantly. In the latrine. While digging a trench. During roll call. Even in the middle of a skirmish. When your hands are shaking and your musket's misfiring, and the man next to you just lost a face, you think, what if I just ran? What if I threw the rifle into the dirt, turned around, and never came back? But you don't. Because desertion is death. If they catch you, and they will catch you, they don't ask why. They don't ask anything. They tie you to a post, put a sack over your head, line up a squad of men who've known you since you still had skin under your nails, and they fire. That's it. No letter home, no grave with your name, just the word traitor written in some officer's journal by candlelight. You've seen it. You heard the story. The boy from 4th Company 19, soft eyes, could sing like a bird, vanished one night. 2 days later they found him. Didn't even make it 5 miles. Cold got him. Or maybe the wolves. They brought his body back just to make an example of it. Hung it from a tree near the latrines. A sign tied around his neck. Cowards don't get graves. You stared at him every morning for a week. He didn't look like a coward. He looked free. You dream about it. Not the hanging, the running, the sound of boots hitting dry leaves instead of sucking mud, the smell of pine instead of human waste, the sky above you open and quiet and merciful, no drums, no whips, no sergeant's voice yelling your name like he owns it. You wouldn't even need much. A bit of bread, a canteen, a knife. Wait for the right moment. When the guards are tired, when the camp's half asleep, when the rain's loud enough to cover your footsteps. And then just go. One step, then another, then silence. You wonder what they'd say. If they'd miss you. Probably not. They'd just write you off. Another fool ran, another grave dodged. But maybe Harris would notice. Maybe he'd find your empty cot in the morning, shake his head and say nothing. Or maybe he'd smile. Because he's thought about it too. Everyone has. Even the captain. Especially the captain. You've seen it in his eyes after a bad night, after too many letters from home with more black ribbon than ink. He wants out too. He just gets to want it from a chair. You dig a hole that day. No reason given. Just orders. Dig, so you dig. And while your hands blister and your back bends and your shoulders scream, you think, this could be for me. If I ran and got caught, this could be the hole they dropped me in. Boots first, nameless, faceless. So you dig slower, just in case. That night the guards doze at their post. You notice. You lie awake, staring at the flap of your tent, listening to the rain, timing it. 1 breath. 2. You sit up, put your hand on your pack. Harris stirs. You freeze. He opens one eye, whispers, don't. You whisper back, why not? He shrugs. You might make it, Jinkler. Then he rolls over, and you lie there, hand still on the pack, heart pounding, legs ready. But you don't move, because wanting isn't the same as doing. And fear is louder than dreams. You close your eyes. Tell yourself maybe tomorrow. And outside, somewhere in the dark, you swear you hear something move. Footsteps. Soft. Slow. Then silence. Someone else didn't wait. Someone did it. You never see them again. Maybe they made it. Maybe they're dead. Either way, they're not here anymore. And for now, that's all you can ask for. 15. You don't remember what peace sounds like. It's quiet. Not real quiet. Not safe quiet. The kind that comes before something breaks. You sit in the dark, wrapped in your coat like it's armour. The fire's gone out, the rain has stopped. And still you don't sleep. Because something's wrong. Not out there, in you. Your body flinches at every gust of wind. Your hand twitches when there's no drumbeat, no order, no voice telling you what to do next. You've forgotten how to rest. Not sleep, rest. There's a difference. Sleep here is like drowning in shallow water. Short bursts, bad dreams, Wake up gasping, go back under. But rest, that's something else. You don't know what that feels like anymore. You can't remember what silence used to mean. Before this place, before the marching, before the screams, you try. You close your eyes and picture a quiet room. No mud, no flies, just warmth. But your mind won't stay there. It adds things. A cough in the corner, a blade being sharpened, the stomp of boots outside the door. Even in your own fantasy, the war finds you. It lives in your ears now, in the ringing that never stops. You've started hearing things that aren't there. A musket crack that turns out to be a twig snapping. A scream that ends up being wind. A whisper when no one's speaking. You asked the surgeon once why the ringing doesn't go away. He said, "That's the sound of nerves dying." You laughed. Because of course it is. Peace was never supposed to be loud. It was supposed to be soft, still, kind. But now, silence is the worst sound of all, because when the guns stop, you have to think about what you've done, about what you've seen, about the men who used to sleep beside you and the spots in the dirt where they used to be. Peace is dangerous now, because it reminds you of the world you used to believe in, the one where birds sang in the morning, where voices didn't scream to be heard, where you didn't flinch when someone tapped your shoulder, where your mother's voice was louder than the captain's. You remember that world vaguely, like a dream you had once and forgot the second you opened your eyes. There was bread, music, maybe laughter. You think you had a dog, but now the only sound that feels real is thunder without rain. You hear someone crying nearby. Not loud, just soft, choked, private. You don't look. You've cried like that too. The kind of crying that makes no noise. Because if it did, someone might hear. And out here, mercy is rare. You think about home, or what's left of it. Would you even know peace if it showed up? Could you sit at a table again? Eat in silence? Sleep in a bed without worrying who's watching? Could you hold a spoon without thinking of the man who bled out with one still in his hand? Could you walk a street without scanning the rooftops? You're not sure. You think the war would follow you. Even if you left today, took a horse, crossed a river, burned your uniform, it'd still be there. In your footsteps. In your breath. You've seen too much. Heard too much. Done too much. Peace has become a rumour. A thing for other people. For officers in clean tents. For folks back home. For ghosts. You sit there listening to the wind. It sounds like breathing. You wonder, not for the first time, if it's your own. And deep down you know the truth. You'll never hear peace again. Not really. Not the way you did when you were still whole. Because peace is fragile. And you broke. 16. When you start hoping for the bullet, it sneaks up on you. You don't realize it at first. It starts as a whisper. A thought you pretend you didn't think. Not, "I want to die." No, that would be too clean, too honest. It starts more like, "If it happens, I hope it's fast." A passing thought on a cold morning, a quiet sigh during roll call, a lazy wish when you're lacing up your boot and find more blood than sock. Then it grows, quietly. You stop flinching when the musket cracks. You stop ducking when the cannon booms in the distance. You stand a little straighter during drills, not out of pride, out of convenience. Because if the bullet comes, you don't want to miss it. You remember when you used to fear death. You begged, bargained, hid in ditches and whispered prayers you didn't believe in. Now, you just wait. Not actively, just open. Like a door left ajar. Let it in. Let it be quick. You tell yourself it's just fatigue, just nerves, just the cold eating your will to live. But you know better. You've seen the signs before. In other men, the 1,000-yard stare, the heavy feet, the hollow laughs. You remember the one who charged the enemy line before the whistle blew. Everyone thought he was brave, until they saw his face. He wasn't looking forward. He was looking past, like the enemy wasn't men, but a gate, and he was trying to walk through. They buried what was left of him in a shallow grave and moved on. No songs, just a number scratched into a wet piece of wood. You think about him now, every time the cannon sounds, every time you reload. You wonder if today's the day your musket misfires and someone else's doesn't. You don't check your powder as carefully. You don't double knot your straps. You don't duck as fast when something whistles past your ear. And still nothing hits you. That's the cruel part. The bullet never comes when you want it. It waits. It teases. You see the boy next to you take one to the chest. He gasps once. Then nothing. Fast. Clean. You stare at him. Envy him. He's done. You're not. Later Harris pulls you aside. Says, "You all right?" You nod. Lie. He looks at you too long, like he knows. Like he sees the way you stand near the front during inspection. The way your hand lingers on your chest just a little too long, not protecting. Inviting. He doesn't press. Just says, "Don't get sloppy. If you're going, don't take me with you." You nod again. But you know it's too late. The thought's in your bones now. It colours everything. Even the good moments when the stew's hot, when someone finds a dry blanket, when the sun comes out for 5 blessed minutes. You catch yourself thinking, is this the last time I feel this? And instead of fear, you feel relief. Not because you want to die, but because you're tired of surviving. There's a difference. Survival is work. Every breath costs something. And you're running out of things to pay with. The next morning, the officer reads a name aloud. A man in your unit. Gone. Bullet. Headshot. Instant. Someone mutters, "Lucky bastard." No one disagrees. No one flinches. Not anymore. You sit by the fire that night, gun across your lap, staring into the flames. They flicker like the gunpowder flare. Bright. Sudden. Done. You imagine it. The impact, the drop, the silence. And for the first time in days you feel something close to peace. But it's not real. Because you'll get up tomorrow. You always do. The bullet hasn't found you yet. And maybe, just maybe, you've become so numb that surviving feels worse than dying. But you still lace the boot, still lift the pack, still march. Because even when you want the bullet, you're still afraid it might miss. 17. The general's glory is built on your bones. You've never met him. The general. You've seen him from a distance, maybe. Once. A shape on a horse, clean, tall, untouched. While you stood in the mud with a fever and a misfiring musket. They say he's brilliant. They say he turned boys into soldiers. You were one of those boys. Now you're just bones with boots. They say his strategy is legendary. That his maneuvers win battles. You look around at the camp, the piles of wounded, the ditch that doubles as a grave, the latrine that's claimed more men than bayonets, and you wonder what part of this was the strategy. They say he sleeps on maps, that his dreams are drawn in ink and flanked by numbers. You wonder if he ever dreams of you. You with your bleeding foot, your lice-riddled scalp, your belly full of mouldy biscuit. Doubt it. You're not a name. You're a figure. You're a unit of measurement. Flesh to be moved, burned, buried. They say he writes letters to the Emperor, that his reports are detailed, impressive. You wonder how he describes what happened 2 nights ago when the 6th Company got caught in the fog and walked straight into enemy fire. They say it was a necessary loss. You watched them die. Men with wives, children, stories. Now, numbers. 32 lost, 12 wounded. Neat, clean, glorious. You were there when they picked up what was left. You helped carry a man whose face no longer had a centre. You held his hand until it stopped shaking. The general wasn't there for that. He was already planning the next advance. You saw his aide ride by that morning, fresh coat, new boots. He didn't even glance at the blood-stained stretch of road. Didn't smell the burning flesh. Didn't hear the flies buzzing over what used to be your sergeant. Glory looks different from horseback. It's not sweat and rot and men screaming for their mothers. It's banners waving and bugles crying and lines on a page that all point forward. You heard him speak once, a speech before battle. He said words like honour, duty, sacrifice. You couldn't hear most of it over the wind, but the men around you nodded. Some even cheered, because they needed to believe. Someone had to. You just stood there, thinking about the way your foot stuck to the inside of your boot when you walked. The way the drummer boy coughed blood into a handkerchief he still tried to fold neatly. The way Harris talked less every day. You didn't cheer. You saved your breath. You might need it later to scream, or run, or die. You hear they named a hill after him. The one you charged last month. The one where half your unit bled out before reaching the top. They raised a flag up there, buried some bodies, took a painting. They'll print it in a book someday. Victory at Hill Marceau. That's what they'll call it. They won't mention the man who got both legs blown off and begged for 3 hours before the medics found him. They won't mention the rats feeding on the fallen. They won't mention the fog that turned friend into foe and cost you another 10. But they'll mention him, the general, with his sabre, and his vision, and his glory. You spit into the dirt, because that's all the tribute you can afford. You wonder what he'd say if he saw the camp now. The limp, the rot, the screams at night. Would he call it necessary? Would he call it valour? Would he even look? Probably not. Men like him don't look down. They look ahead. Always ahead. Over your head. Over your grave. To the next line. The next fight. The next name on the map. You lie down that night under a blanket that smells like mould and rain. You close your eyes, and you see him, not as a man, as a monument. Cold, tall, marble. He's got one hand on a sword and the other pointing forward. At what? More of you. Marching, bleeding, dying. You try to sleep. But the thought won't let you. That maybe, just maybe, the only thing the general ever really conquered was you. 18. Why you don't fire a musket in anger. You think it'll be simple. You think war is rage. That you'll see the whites of their eyes and your blood will boil and your hand will raise and you'll pull the trigger and they'll fall. Clean. Fast. Just like the stories. You're wrong. The first time you fire a musket, you're not angry. You're terrified. Your hands are shaking, your powder's damp. You forget which pocket holds the wadding. You almost load the ball before the charge. The officer yells something behind you, but all you hear is your heart punching through your ribs. You fire. The recoil punches your shoulder. Your ears ring. Smoke blinds you. You have no idea if you hit anything. You don't care. You're still breathing. That's all that matters. Later in the camp, someone says you killed a man. You ask how they know. They say, he fell. That's not proof. A lot of men fall. Sometimes they trip. Sometimes they're dying. Sometimes they're just tired. But you nod anyway, because it makes the silence feel more useful. Then you fire again. Next battle. Then again, and again. And it never gets easier. You never get angry, because anger takes energy. And you ran out of that around the time you stopped caring if your boots matched. There's no rage in your shot, just repetition. Powder, wadding, ball, ram it down, aim, fire. Smoke, cough, reload. Do it again. The sergeant yells, faster, damn you. You try, but the barrel's hot, the ramrod sticks, your fingers are numb, your mouth tastes like powder and ash. You drop the cartridge. It sinks into the mud. Gone. You fire one less shot. You tell no one. Later, a man next to you is shot in the throat while reloading. He drops straight down like his bones vanished. No scream, just blood. You don't get angry. You keep loading. Not because you don't care, because there's nothing else to do. Firing a musket isn't precise. It's not heroic. It's not brave. It's procedure. You could fire with your eyes closed and it wouldn't make much difference. Half the time you do. You've seen men fire straight into the sky. Not by accident. By panic. By exhaustion. By sheer desperate hope that the noise alone will keep the enemy back. You've seen misfires, double loads, exploded barrels. One man lost a hand. Another lost his jaw. But no one stops. You keep shooting, not at someone, just toward. The air becomes thick with smoke. You can't see 10 feet. You're not sure who's out there. Could be friend, could be foe, could be no one. Still, you fire. It becomes muscle memory, like breathing, but louder and dirtier, and more likely to kill someone. You see a boy once, maybe 15, enemy line. He's running, not charging, running away. Your finger finds the trigger, but something stops you. Not pity, not mercy, just nothing. You're not angry at him. He's not angry at you. You're both just caught in something too big, too loud, too cruel. You lower the musket. Let him go. He disappears into the trees. The man next to you sees it. He doesn't say a word. He just nods. You nod back. Because that's the unspoken rule out here. Don't fire in anger. You might hit something you weren't supposed to. A shadow. A thought. A boy. You fire because it's expected. You fire because they told you to. You fire because everyone else is. But never in rage. Because rage is personal. And out here, you're not a person. You're a mechanism, trigger, smoke, flame. Nothing more. You sit by the fire that night, cleaning the musket. Still warm, still heavy. You run a cloth down the barrel. You whisper, I hope I missed. And for once, you mean it. 19. Victory is just another word for fewer graves. They say it in the morning. You hear the officer shout it while standing on a barrel like he earned the sky. We've won! The men cheer. Some wave caps. One even whistles. You don't move. You just sit there staring at your boot because the leather's split and the sole is hanging on by thread, and that feels more urgent than whatever victory means today. The word doesn't land the way it used to. Back home, victory meant something. Parades, bells, banners from balconies. You pictured horses charging through enemy lines, flags raised, cannons fired in salute. Here, victory looks like a pile of bodies face down in the mud. Victory smells like cordite, blood, and men who scream too long. Victory sounds like a medic whispering, "This one might live if we can stop the bleeding." You saw what happened. You were there. You know the truth. They pushed back the enemy. Sure. Took the hill, captured a few cannons, drove the others into the woods. But at what cost? You step over your sergeant's arm on the way to the latrine. You recognize it by the tattoo, a bad eagle, half faded, missing a wing. He used to joke it was more pigeon than predator. Now it's part of the earth. You pass 6 makeshift graves before breakfast. One has no name. Just a bent spoon stuck in the dirt, pointing nowhere. You think, we won, and it feels hollow, like biting into bread and finding it full of mould. The captain reads off names, the ones who distinguished themselves. You know 2 of them. One's deaf now, the other can't blink without screaming. But they get a mention, a mark in a ledger. They contributed to victory. You wonder what you contributed. Blisters. A half-loaded musket. You spent most of the battle crouched behind a log, heart punching your ribs, praying your powder stayed dry. You didn't charge. You didn't stab. You didn't even fire until someone shoved you and yelled, "Now!" But you lived? That's what counts. At least, that's what they tell you. But you're not sure anymore. Living here feels more like waiting. Waiting to rot. To break. To be replaced. Someone finds a flag among the rubble. They plant it. Raise it high like it matters. Men gather around. Try to believe in it. But the wind barely lifts it. Too damp, too heavy with rain and blood. It droops. Like everything else out here. You think about the word again. Victory. It rolls around your mind like a loose tooth you don't want to pull. What does it mean, really? You gained 30 yards of mud. Left 70 men behind. They'll call it a success. Print it in papers. Glorious triumph under the command of General so-and-so. There'll be speeches, wine, maybe even a medal. But no one will write about the man who bled out clutching his own intestines, crying for his sister. No one will mention the drummer boy who hasn't spoken since the charge, or the cook who stepped on a mine meant for cavalry. But they'll say it. We won. And they'll believe it. Because they have to. You dig a trench that afternoon. Not for fighting. For burying. 15 men. One after another. You don't know most of their names. You ask no questions. You lay them flat side by side, stack their coats in a pile and burn them. No sermons. Just shovels. Just dirt. Just you. A man standing knee-deep in mud, tossing handfuls of earth onto a fresh layer of death. You whisper, "We won." No one hears. No one replies, because victory isn't loud anymore. It's just quieter than losing. 20. Home doesn't know who you are. Anymore. You make it. Somehow. Not whole, not sane, not proud. But you survive. Your leg is ruined. Your hearing's half gone. Your back feels older than time. But you're alive. They say you can go home. You thought it would feel better. But now that the word's been said home, it tastes strange in your mouth. Like something you used to chew and forgot how to swallow. You ride part of the way on a cart full of crates. You walk the rest, dragging your pack like it owes you something. The roads feel wider. The sky feels too open. Every sound makes your fingers twitch toward a weapon that's no longer strapped to your shoulder. Your boots leak. Of course they do. Same pair you left with. Same holes. You reach the village by mid-morning. Someone recognizes you. They say your name with a question mark. You nod. They gasp. They say you look different. You want to say you should see the ones who didn't come back, but you just nod again. Your mother cries when she sees you. Tears and noise and hands gripping yours too tightly. She says, "You're so thin." She says, "You're safe now." You want to laugh, because you've never felt less safe. Everything here is soft, clean, warm, and it terrifies you. There's bread on the table. You stare at it. Not because you're hungry, because there are no flies on it. Your hands shake when you eat. You still reach for your mess tin, still check your water for rust. You don't sleep that night. The bed is too quiet, too dry, too kind. You lie there staring at the ceiling, waiting for the drumbeat, the scream, the cough, but nothing comes. Just your heart, beating, louder than gunfire. You get up, pace, check the door, check the window, just in case. You sit outside in the dark until morning. When your father joins you, he says, "Hard to adjust, eh?" You nod. He offers you tea. You take it. Sip once. Can't taste it. You meet old friends. They smile, ask questions, pat your back like you won a prize. You try to answer, but the words don't fit right anymore. They ask, "Was it bad?" You nod. They ask, "Did you kill anyone?" You lie. They ask, "Are you glad to be home?" You don't answer, because you don't know. You walk through town and every sound feels wrong. The hammer on the blacksmith's anvil sounds like cannon fire. The church bell? Too much like a signal. A child screams with laughter and you flinch. Because screams don't come with joy where you're from. They come with blood. You try to write. A journal, a letter, anything. But the ink just pools on the page. No words come. Not the right ones. You realize something. Home hasn't changed. But you have. You've become something it doesn't recognize. And it doesn't know what to do with you. You're too young to be this quiet. Too alive to be this dead. You see a boy running down the road, wooden sword in hand, shouting, "Forward, march!" You want to stop him, shake him, tell him what comes next. But you don't, because you remember. You were him once, before the lice, the rot, the fear, before the musket became your shadow, before you slept beside corpses and called it luck. He waves at you. You wave back, and for a moment you almost believe it's okay. But it's not, because no one told you the truth. No one told you that surviving the war is just the start. The war doesn't stop when the drums do. It follows you, in silence, in dreams, in the way you flinch when someone drops a plate, in the way your own home feels like a stranger's coat, familiar, but not quite yours anymore. You lie in bed again that night. The wind rustles the trees, and in your mind it's a musket firing. Your breath catches, then calms, and you whisper to no one, "You're home." But it doesn't feel like it, because the man who left died out there, and the man who came back, no one here knows him, not even you. 21, the surgeon doesn't flinch, but you will. He doesn't look like a man. Not anymore. Not the way he moves, not the way he talks. He's too calm, too fast, too clean. His hands are red to the wrist, but his face, blank, dry, quiet. The surgeon. You only see him when things go bad, which is to say, often. His tent is where hope goes to bleed. It's not white, it was once. Now it's stained with colours you don't name. Rust, shadow, something dark and green. Inside it stinks. Of rot, of sweat, of whatever passes for antiseptic, mostly vinegar and prayer. You're there because you had no choice. You stepped wrong, or something bit you, or your foot gave out, or maybe it was your lungs, or the lump in your throat, or the cut that won't stop leaking. Whatever it is, someone dragged you in. The flap lifts, the stench hits you in the teeth. You almost turn back. But then you hear it, the sound. Saw on bone. It's unmistakable. No bark, no grit. Just a dry, gritty shk, like someone carving a chair out of a living tree. You swallow hard. He looks up. Just once. Eyes like river stones, cold, smooth, uninterested. He says, hold still. Not hello. Not what's wrong. Just hold still. You do. Because what else is there? You sit. He touches your leg, peels back the bandage. You don't look. You've learned not to. Bad, he says. That's it. No sugar. Just fact. Can you walk, he asks. You nod. Lie. He doesn't care. He wraps it tighter. Douses it in something that burns so bad your eyes blur. He doesn't say sorry. You flinch. He doesn't. He moves on to the next man, the one missing 3 fingers. You hear him say, we'll take the hand, maybe save the arm. The man sobs. The surgeon doesn't even blink. Because he's not here. Not really. His mind's someplace else. A room in his head where the screaming is just noise and the bodies are just puzzles. You wonder if he dreams. If he sees their faces again, the ones he opened and closed like meat. If he ever wonders what they did before this, what their names were. But he probably doesn't. He can't afford to. He sharpens the blade between patients. Methodical, smooth, like a butcher tuning his favourite knife. You hear it whistle in the air. You feel your stomach turn. He smells like metal and ash. Like a man who stopped being a man after the 3rd amputation and just kept cutting out of habit. There's a tray next to him. On it, twine, rags, a rusty clamp, and a saw so thin it looks like it would snap if it touched stone, but perfect for bone. You see the boy who came in ahead of you. They're holding him down. The surgeon says, bite. And that's the last thing he says before he starts cutting. The boy screams. You don't flinch, because now you're like the surgeon. Almost. He taught you something without meaning to. There's a line between pain and panic. If you stare at it long enough, it stops meaning anything. Just becomes routine. Noise. Pressure. Twitch. Done. But still, when the boy passes out, you feel your fingers twitch. When the clamp hits the metal tray with a clang, your shoulders jump. When the surgeon wipes his hands and mutters, next, you look away. Because even if you're not screaming now, you still feel it. And that means you're not gone. Not completely. Not like him. Not yet. 22. They buried him with your name. It was a mistake. That's what they said. Just a mix-up. Wrong tag. Wrong roll call. Wrong face in the mud. But it doesn't matter. Because now, as far as the army's concerned, you're dead. And he's you. You didn't know him well. He slept 4 tents down, barely spoke, walked with a limp even before the frostbite, carried his pack like it weighed 100 pounds more than yours. One day, he coughed up blood into his sleeve. The next, he was gone. They buried him fast. Cold ground, no priest, just dirt and a board. They etched your name into it. Spelled it wrong. You found it later. You weren't supposed to, but you wandered after watch, couldn't sleep, couldn't breathe. And there it was, a little crooked plank with your name scratched into it like a joke. You stared at it for 10 full minutes. It stared back. You tried to laugh, but nothing came out, because the truth hit you harder than any cannon. No one knew. Not the sergeant, not the surgeon, not even Harris. He hadn't spoken to you in 3 days. You could have vanished and they would have just nodded. Must have been the fever. Must have been the blast. Must have been Tuesday. You crouch next to the grave. The dirt is fresh, damp. You reach out, brush a few twigs from the plank. There's a boot sticking up near the edge. Yours? His? Does it matter? You sit. You think. If they think you're dead, are you? What's the difference? No one's calling your name. No one's checking your pulse. You don't even remember your own handwriting anymore. If they buried you, the version of you that existed before this place, before the filth and frost and hunger, maybe they weren't wrong. Maybe that man is gone, and all that's left is a coat with hands and a rifle. You walk back to camp in silence. No one asks where you were. They never do. You pass the quartermaster. He looks right through you. You pass the chaplain. He nods like he's seen a ghost. You wonder if you are one. That night, you sleep like the dead and dream of nothing. In the morning, you hear a voice call out names. Your name is not one of them. And that's fine. You don't correct him. You never will. Because in some strange, bitter way, being dead is easier. The dead don't march. The dead don't bleed. The dead don't get called to the front line on rations of dried hope and frozen air. They just lie still, quiet, done. You wonder if he knew, the man in the grave, if he realized what gift he gave you. Not freedom, not life, but disappearance. You almost thank him. Almost. But you keep walking instead. You still have things to carry. Until you don't. 23. The dead don't haunt you. The living do. You thought it'd be the dead. The ones you watched choke, bleed, burn. The ones whose hands you held as the life drained out. You thought they'd visit you at night, whisper in your ear, reach up from the soil and drag you down. But they don't. They're gone, silent, finished. It's the living that won't leave you alone, the ones still breathing, still marching, still pretending. They haunt you in every way the dead never could. You see them in the morning eyes glassy, knuckles cracked, faces more mask than flesh. They talk, but it's not speech, it's noise. Words like, almost over, next campaign. The captain says, you don't believe them. They don't believe themselves. But they speak anyway. That's the worst part. The hope. The gritted hope. Not the warm, glowing kind. The stubborn, dying ember kind. The kind that refuses to go out even as the wind tears through it. That haunts you. Because you remember when you had it. And now, you don't. You see the medic wrapping another wound. He's talking like it matters. Keep it dry. Don't walk too much. Rest. As if any of that's possible. As if any of it will change the fact that the man's foot smells like meat left in the sun. But he talks. Because silence is heavier. You watch Harris eat his ration. Quiet. Mechanical. One bite, chew, swallow, blink. He's been here longer than anyone you know. And that's what terrifies you. Because he's still here. Still walking. Still breathing. Still functioning. But he's not alive. Not really. You spoke to him yesterday and he stared through you. Said, I used to be a painter. Then nothing. No follow-up. Just silence. You see the look in his eyes. You've seen it before. In the man who kept loading an empty musket long after his arm was gone. In the officer who shot himself with his sidearm and left a note that said, "Nothing follows." The living carry weight, the dead don't. The dead lie still. The living tremble. They twitch in their sleep. They call out names they've forgotten by dawn. They smile too wide, too wrong. They laugh at nothing. And they don't stop talking to no one. To ghosts. To gods. To things in the trees. You lie awake and listen. And sometimes you answer. Not out loud. Not yet. But soon. Because you're starting to understand. It's not death that breaks a man. It's being surrounded by people who aren't dead yet. Who keep walking with hollow eyes. Keep eating. Keep marching. Keep existing. Even when everything inside has rotted away. That's what haunts you. Not the blood. Not the screams. Not the dying. It's the survival. The clumsy, painful, endless after. The knowing that they made it through something too horrible to carry and did it anyway. And now they're dragging themselves toward nothing. And you're walking beside them, matching pace, waiting for the moment when you forget how to speak, how to care, how to be. You see the firelight on Harris's face. He blinks. Once, then again, then stares. Not at you, at something behind you. Something that isn't there. You don't ask what he sees. You already know. 24. You wake up missing something you can't name. You wake up, same as every morning, except something's gone. You don't know what. Not at first. You pat yourself down. Fingers. Check. Boots. Wet. Still there. Musket. Still leaning beside you. Breath. Shaky but real. But something is missing. And it's not a thing you can touch. It's not your hat or your canteen or the last biscuit you stashed behind your bedroll. It's you. A part of you is missing. Something small, but important. A memory? A name? The feel of something warm? You're not sure. You just know you don't feel whole. You step outside the tent. The wind bites your face. Familiar, ugly, honest. You look around. Everything's the same dying fire, the same man coughing blood into his sleeve, the same flies buzzing like they've got orders to follow you into hell. But you've changed, or shifted, something subtle. You try to remember yesterday. You can't. You remember the noise, the colour of the mud, a scream, a song, smoke, but not the order of things. You ask Harris what day it is. He shrugs. Says, "Does it matter?" You suppose it doesn't. You don't know how long you've been here. Not really. Could be weeks. Could be years. The war eats time like it eats men slow at first, then all at once. You sit beside the latrine pit where the smell's bad but the silence is better. And you think. You try to think. What did you have once? What was there before all this? Your mother's voice? A favourite food? The sound of a dog barking in the distance? Gone. Faded like chalk in rain. You used to be someone. Someone with stories, with wants, with a full name. Now, you're that one. The tall one. The one who doesn't speak much. You've become a shape, a silhouette the others step around. You could disappear today and no one would call your name, because they already buried your name 2 chapters ago. Now it's just the shell walking, and today that shell is missing something. You look in the water barrel, catch your reflection. For a second you expect it to blink differently than you do, to smirk when your mouth doesn't move, to say, I remember who we were, but it just looks back, tired, filthy, gone. You turn away. The captain calls for drill. You stand. Not because you want to, because standing is what happens when someone shouts. Your boots hit the ground like someone else's feet. You hear a laugh behind you. High, wrong, unhinged. A man is standing on a crate, pointing at nothing, yelling about the emperor. No one stops him. Why would they? He's not the first. He won't be the last. You wonder when it'll be your turn. When you'll climb something and start screaming, or crying, or both. Maybe you already did, and forgot. You take your place in line, eyes front, shoulders stiff. The sergeant yells something about discipline. You nod, even though you didn't hear, even though you don't care. You fire when they say fire. You reload when they say reload. You march when they say march. But inside, something is gone. You can't name it. And that's what scares you most. Because if you can't name it, you can't get it back. 25. Rain doesn't wash the blood off like it used to for them. It's raining again. Not the kind of rain that cleans. Not the kind you welcome with open arms, arms outstretched like a man being saved. This rain stings. It's thin, cold, persistent. It finds the holes in your coat, slips past your collar, worms down your spine like a whisper you can't shake. It soaks your socks in seconds. Your pack is wet before you can even think about covering it. Your musket, too damp to trust. Your hands, too numb to bother. It used to feel different. Rain. Back home it meant something. A break in the heat. A reason to stay inside, watch the world drip and ripple and settle. You used to breathe deep in the rain, let it cool your face, wash your hair. Now it just ruins everything. Now it makes the blood harder to scrub out of your sleeves. You've tried. God, you've tried. You scrub at the stains after every fight. Kneel in the mud, fists red, cloth redder. But it never fully comes out. Even when the rain falls heavy. Even when the soap is gone and all you have is sand and desperation. The red stays. Deep in the fibres, deep in your skin. Some of it's theirs. Some of it's yours. You stopped keeping track. You stand in it today, the rain, watching it carve little rivers in the muck around your boots. There's a body nearby, half covered. You can't tell who. You don't look long. But the rain's not helping him either. It runs down his cheek like tears. Puddles in his open hand. He's been there since last night. They said they'd move him. But you know how it goes. Another shell, another order, another distraction. The dead don't shout. The living barely do. You rub your palms together, trying to feel them again. You can't. The nerves have gone somewhere quieter. You wonder how many more days until they don't come back at all. The man beside you says something. You nod. You didn't hear it, but nodding is easier than speaking. The rain picks up. It's relentless now. So loud it drowns out the coughs, the curses, the clink of tin against tin, and still you feel dirty. Still the blood stays. You tried washing your face in it once, months ago. Stood in the rain like a fool, eyes shut, mouth open, praying for something to be cleansed. But it didn't work. You still saw her, the girl in the dress, the one in the wrong place at the wrong time, her scream caught between your heartbeat and your trigger finger. You don't talk about her. You don't talk about any of them. But the blood does. It speaks loudest in the rain. Every drop feels like a reminder. You are not clean. You are not new. You are not forgiven. The captain walks by. His coat is dry. How? You don't ask. Officers have their own weather, you suppose. A better kind. He doesn't notice the body, or the red stain pooling under the canvas flap, or the way your hands are shaking just a little harder today. He just barks orders and keeps walking. You wonder what he smells like. Probably ink and wine. You smell like rust and regret. That's all the rain leaves behind now. You think of taking your shirt off, letting the sky beat you raw, letting it soak through to the bone and flush everything out. But you know it won't help, because the worst stains, they're inside, and no rain falls there. 26. Your dreams turn on you. Sleep used to be the only escape. Back when your body still believed in rest. Back when your mind hadn't been hollowed out like a trench. Back when you could close your eyes and drift somewhere soft. Now your dreams have turned against you. They wait for you. Lurk behind your eyelids like bayonets in the dark. You lie down because you must, but you don't fall asleep. You sink, like slipping into a frozen river. Everything slow, everything numb, everything pulling downward. Then the visions start. They don't feel like dreams, not the kind with clouds and music and warm bread. These are reminders, flashes. You're in the wrong uniform. Your musket won't fire. You're standing where you shouldn't be. Someone is screaming. You think it's you. You wake up breathless. Your hands claw at your blanket like it's trying to kill you. You look around. Same tent. Same stink. Same darkness. But the feeling sticks. Like frostbite beneath the ribs. You wipe your face. Cold sweat. Again. You don't remember the dream exactly, only that someone died. Someone always dies. Sometimes it's Harris. Sometimes it's your mother. Sometimes it's you. But you never stay dead. That's the cruel part. You always wake up. The war brings you back, even when your own mind wants out. Even in dreams, it owns you. You've tried to beat it. You've slept sitting up, slept in your boots, slept in the mud, slept with your hand on your chest just to prove it's still rising. Nothing helps. The dreams find you anyway. And worse, they change. They used to just replay what happened. Now they make things worse. Invent new horrors. People who weren't there are. Weapons you never saw appear. And always, always the sound. That sound. A deep, low drum beat, but slower, heavier, like something dying beneath the earth. You asked the surgeon once, what dreams are like after war. He said, I don't have them anymore. You envied him. Until he added, or I don't wake up from them. Not sure which. You knew what he meant. You wonder if you're still in one. Right now. Still dreaming. Still trapped. Still waiting for someone to shake you awake. But no one does. Because everyone else is dreaming too. Or worse, not dreaming at all. You hear someone talking in their sleep. Gibberish. Or German. Or prayer. You don't ask. You don't want to know what they're seeing. You've got enough of your own ghosts, and lately, they've started talking back. You dreamed last night of your own funeral, but no one was there. Not even the chaplain. Just your boots, laid neatly at the foot of a ditch. and a note pinned to your chest that said, "He slept through the end." You woke up choking, dirt in your mouth. Not real. You told yourself it wasn't real, but your mouth still tasted like earth all morning. You hear a whisper in the tent now. Someone says your name. You turn. No one there. You lie back down. Close your eyes. Wait. Because they're coming. The dreams. They always come. And you don't run from them anymore. You just brace. 27. The map means nothing to the men. Bleeding on it. You've seen the map. Once. Unrolled on the captain desk like it was sacred. Clean. Uncreased. Drawn in sharp, perfect lines. With colours. With order. Little red blocks for your regiment. Blue ones for the enemy. Green hills, grey roads, rivers that looked like silver thread. It looked beautiful, peaceful even, like a plan, like clarity, like someone understood what all this was for. You stared at it, couldn't stop. You pointed to a corner, said, "We were here." The captain shook his head. "No," he said. "You were 2 clicks west. Here." He jabbed a finger at a patch of nothing. A blank bit of beige. You nodded like it mattered. But inside something cracked. Because you were there. You remember the trees. You remember the mud that took a man's boot and never gave it back. You remember the way the sky turned red for no reason and the smoke made it look like the sun had bled out. But it wasn't on the map. None of it. Not the crater with 3 bodies in it. Not the field where your sergeant dropped and never got back up. Not the broken cannon you slept beside like it could protect you. All of that was just white space. Unlabeled. Unseen. The map didn't show the boy who cried for his sister. The rat that chewed through a man's thumb. The pit that swallowed 3 horses in one rainstorm. It just showed arrows. And you were one of them. A red arrow, pointing forward, straight into the void. The officers talk about movement. Push the line. Control the ridge. But none of that means anything when you're lying face down in a trench, coughing blood and wondering if you'll ever feel your toes again. They point to hills like they're concepts. You climbed those hills and bled on them and left pieces of yourself in their roots. But on the map, they're just shapes. No weight. No memory. You saw the quartermaster use it once to eat off. Unrolled a copy on a barrel and dropped crumbs on top of your unit's last known position. You said nothing. He didn't notice. No one notices. Because to them, it's a map. To you, it's a graveyard. You walk past it again today, hanging from a post in the command tent. Updated. It's got new arrows now. More red, less blue. Good, they say, we're advancing. You think of Harris, still bleeding from the gut, still staring at nothing. Is he in advance? You think of the boy who got his hand crushed under a wagon wheel. You think of the woman you saw once walking alone through the woods. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong war. Where's her square on the map? She's not on it. None of them are. Not even you. You're just a mark in the officer's ledger, next to a note. Replaceable. They say maps win wars. But out here, maps don't bleed. Maps don't scream. Maps don't bury their friends with bare hands because the shovel broke and the frost was too hard. You do. So you stop looking at it. You walk away. Because you've got your own map now. It's in your head. Drawn in pain, outlined in loss, marked with places that will never leave you. and none of them have names. 28. You forget why the war even started. You try to remember. You really do. What was it about? Territory? Honour? Some insult traded by men in clean coats in a room far from here? You're not sure anymore. No one is. Ask 10 soldiers why they're fighting, you'll get 11 answers. To protect the homeland, to serve the emperor, to avenge my brother. Because I had no choice. Because I was hungry. You? You're not even sure what side you're on anymore. Not really. You know the colours. You know the flags. You know what your coat looks like and what the enemy's doesn't. But the rest? Gone. Evaporated like steam off the morning pot. You used to know. You remember standing in the square. You remember the drums, the speeches, the promises, glory, unity, purpose. They said you'd come back a man. They said you'd matter. You almost believed them. But out here, none of that holds. There's no glory in frostbite. There's no purpose in a dead boy's eyes. There's no unity when you're stealing from your friend's pack because his body's still warm and his rations aren't. You asked Harris once, weeks ago, what started the war. He just blinked. Said, I think a duke got shot, or a treaty got torn, something like that. Then he laughed. Dry, bitter, ugly, like it didn't matter. Because it doesn't. Not anymore. Not when your world is 6 feet of mud in every direction and the only thing you shoot is a shadow moving in the smoke. They told you who the enemy was. They gave him a uniform, a language, a name. But you've killed men who cried like you, bled like you, prayed like you. The only real difference between you and them, whose boots are on what soil. You start to think maybe that's all this is. A game of boots and dirt and lies too old to trace. You stare at the fire. The wood pops. The embers curl like memories you can't hold. And you ask yourself again, why did this start? And then the worst question, why is it still going? You think of the officer's tent, the maps, the orders, the sealed letters. They still pretend like it all has direction, that this war is headed somewhere. But you've seen the truth. It just circles. Round and round. Blood to mud. Mud to blood. Day becomes night. Friend becomes corpse. Reason becomes noise. And still it goes on. You want to ask someone to remind you. To explain it again. To walk you back to the beginning and say, here. This is where it all made sense. But there's no one to ask. The men who cared are gone. The ones who stayed just keep their heads down. You watch a bird fly overhead. Too small to eat. Too fast to hit. Free. You envy it. Because whatever started this war didn't involve the sky. It involved men. With pens. With medals. With last names carved into statues they'll never lie beneath. You lie down, stare at the canvas above you, and realize something. You don't even want to remember anymore, because remembering means believing it mattered. And if it mattered, then every dead face you've stepped over is just part of a cause, and you can't carry that. Not now. Not after all this. You close your eyes, not to sleep, just to stop seeing, just for a while. And in the dark the question fades. Why did the war start? You don't know. You don't care. You just want it to end.